Oh, mutual desire to be rich and famous. How do anybody get together? We bumped into each other in the street after a few alcoholic beverages and say, look, I've heard that you play guitar and I've heard that you play the drums, and my friends tell me that you're quite a good bass player and so on. And we just sort of fell together and said, okay, let's go and be rich and famous. But this was way back in 73, and we couldn't really play a note. And to do the whole history in a kind of a nutcase, even a nutshell, to do it in a nutshell, no, like the word nutcase better. We started in 73 and learnt our instruments and carried on playing. Went through several name changes until we were reasonably proficient and started getting gigs in the capital around 76, 77, and lots of record companies noticed us and said, put your name on this piece of paper, so we did.
And that was it.
Dead normal, really.
What was your first single?
Science Friction, which is blank looks there. It came out in 77 and had 3 tracks. It was like a sort of mini EP. It had 3 tracks on. It was very fast and very furious. And I think it's been deleted now, so if anybody has a copy, you should nail it immediately to the wall and point it out to your friends when they come in.
Well, I'm glad that won't be the competition. I'm going to ask you, during the next bit of record, if you can think of a good question we can do a competition by. Maybe your record company would be so kind as to give us some copies of the album.
Oh, make it a long record. I'll plug the brain in and see what we can come up with.
All right. Before we hear UB40, Charlene also wants to know about, on the video for Towers of London, the band are seen standing outside a towered building and an underground station. My friend Francis says that this is King's Cross or St. Pancras. Is she right? Because I work in St. Pancras Station and never noticed any cameras through the building that look remarkably like the station. Pardon? Anyway, Charlie.
Did not ask me, because we did that at 6 o'clock in the morning, and if you look carefully on the film, my eyes aren't open. They've just painted pupils on my lids. We were dragged out of bed. We finished in the studio at like 4 in the morning, and we were knocked up at 6, and the film crew came around and dragged us out of bed, said, come and do this film. And we're totally asleep on that film, so I couldn't tell you, but it's somewhere in London. That was the clue.
Okay.
That was one of the worst things you could have asked.
That won't be the competition either. This is UB40. I'll close my eyes. UB40. Andy's got a question, and we'll save it for a little while, but he actually has come up with quite a good question. So if you're an XTC fan, or if you know of an XTC fan, get them around the radio soon so they can help you answer the question. Janice Pring of Taunton in Somerset has got quite a few questions for Andy Partridge. First one is, what did the idea, or where did the idea behind Senses working overtime come from?
Right, here we go. Okay, gather your Open University brochures around you. Sense of Working Overtime is nothing more than a joy of living song. And often when you're like running for a bus or just meandering down the shops or something, if it's a good day, you think, oh, isn't it great to be alive? And if it's a bad day, you think, well, isn't it still great to be alive? Because if I wasn't alive, I wouldn't be able to be here thinking how ungreat it is to be alive. So it's just a joy of living song. That's why there are good things and bad things mentioned in it. But I'm a sort of an optimist on the quiet. So it's a real, isn't it good to be alive?
It's nice to see an optimist. There's not many optimists about these days.
A bit of a grinner on the quiet.
No, the sleeve was nice and colourful, wasn't it?
It's a nice green, yeah. It's like a sort of an anaglitter.
Not the album.
Oh, not that one.
No, the sleeve of the single.
You're working up to the question, aren't you?
Not yet.
Are there? Ask him the question.
Now listen, wait a minute. More from Janice here. Are there plans to release more singles from English Settlement, or will you release totally new material? Well, we've already covered Ball and Chain. Do you think that'll be the last single?
Ball and Chain is going to be the next single, we feel. Yeah. But as far as future singles, we don't know. It's sort of a strange thing, because people say, please don't put things out off of the album, because we already have the album. But there's also the thing about the band is usually on tour and like going around other countries and things, so it's very difficult for them to write something different and get in the studio and make something new. So what we try to do is, if we do put out something from an album, we try to give good value with the B-sides or with other things, you know. So we hopefully the fans wouldn't write to us or let us know that we're doing them wrong. So we try to give value.
Okay. Here's a philosophical question from Janice now. Were any of you at the Swindon versus Taunton football match in the FA Cup first round proper last November?
Oh, goodness gracious. I've never been to a football match in my life. I used to stay at home and watch Thunderbirds. No, I don't know. Terry might have been. He's a bit of a football lad, but
Swindon fan, is he?
Yeah, well, I think he's really. Yeah. No, I'm not really into football. To tell the truth, blow football. Yeah, at the limit of my physical exercise.
I mean, you still live in Swindon, do you?
That's right. Yes, I have this little barn in Swindon.
Have any other acts come from the Swindon area?
Diana Dawes, one of my favourite groups. Justin Hairdo, the chap with the Moody Blues. What's it? Justin Hayward, right? Him with a funny sort of thing on his head, sculpted out of butter. Who else came from Swindon? Rick Davis, the keyboard player with Supertramp. He was from Swindon. And Gilbert O'Sullivan spent most of his youth in Swindon, and he's got like great Swindon connections. So really, it's a bit of a pot boiler for talent. Can I say this?
What's it like? What is the scene like now for young bands from Swindon? I mean, there are certain kind of key areas in the country where a lot of bands are making a noise, and their records are coming down to us, and we're playing them. Cities like Bristol, Edinburgh, Belfast, certainly, Liverpool.
Swindon is not a big. Well, it's not even a city. I don't think it has kind of a big important church. It has, obviously has big important churches, but not churches that are called cathedrals and things, so it doesn't get the tag city.
And it has the Brunel rooms, of course.
Those Brunel rooms. Just kind of bomb this when I can afford a plane, I shall strafe it. It's more sprawling than big. There's lots of council estates and lots of things like going on in secret. Swindon's a sort of a secret place. They're quite closed up and quite closed up in attitude. So that anyone that breaks out of Swindon, discounting us, because I'm trying to be modest now, but I think they really have deserved it, because it's a bit claustrophobic. I think anyone that gets out of Swindon has really broken through 1,001 fluffy blankets, because it's a sort of claustrophobic place, you know.
Well, you'll be heading back, will you, later tonight?
I shall be getting on the old puffer, one of Brunel's first, I think, and going down the tracks.
A song you wrote called No Thugs in Our House is our next track.
Or No Rugs in Our House, as a fan recently wrote. Really love that song, No Rugs in Our House.
Little furniture music. What about the sentiment behind this?
Right, well, I have to give this away. We were talking about this flirting with fascism earlier on, and this track is actually about the parents, kind of average parents, who are obviously into guarding their children, and most parents think their children do nothing but angelic and wonderful, and the parents in this song are really denying that their child is anything but a sweet angel, and in fact he's going around damaging people and doing all sorts of bad things, and they're saying all the way through the song, no, he's our child, how can you say this, he's wonderful. I'm sure this happens all over England.
Oh, you're probably right. No Thugs in Our House. This is the track. No Thugs in Our House, XTC. Andy Partridge wrote it, and Andy Partridge is with us tonight. Back to Janice Pring's letter. It's a fairly lengthy one. Janice is actually concerned about Terry Chambers.
I'm concerned about Terry Chambers.
She wants to know
Janice.
Is he still single?
Is he still single? After I've had a couple of beers, he was decidedly double. Yes, he's still single, but he's got a great attachment for his bloodhound. That's all I can tell you.
How old is he? My friend thinks that
that
he's younger than 22, you see.
He's not. It's just age has been kind to him. I think he's 26, barely. A child, a mere child.
And finally, where were the photos on the inner sleeve of English Settlement taken?
Around the corner from the manor in Oxfordshire. There's a nice little old bridge and sort of rustic country things. And we thought it would be nice. We stuffed ourselves full of cheese sandwiches and strolled down there one afternoon and had them taken. It's on the other one. He's pulling out the two records now.
I tell you what, yes, you hear the sound effects.